The Korean colleague said nothing. Just a slight pause. A small shift in expression. The meeting continued. The Western colleague missed it entirely. Later, the Korean colleague told a friend. They didn't get it. The Western colleague told a friend. I have no idea what they wanted. They never said anything. Both of them were right. Both of them were confused. Both of them walked away from the same conversation, having experienced completely different interactions. This happens every day, in every Korean office, every Korean classroom, every Korean dinner table, where someone is running a different social operating system than everyone else in the room. It's not a language barrier. It's a Nunchi Gap. And once you understand exactly what is being transmitted and exactly what is being missed, you cannot unsee it. This is K-Logic. And today, we decode the Nunchi Gap. Nunchi, as we decoded earlier in this series, is Korea's social GPS, the real-time processing system that reads facial expressions, tone, body language, and ambient atmosphere to understand what is not being said. The Nunchi Gap is what happens when one party in an interaction is running this system and the other isn't. It is not a communication failure in the conventional sense. Both parties are speaking. Both parties are listening. The information is being transmitted. The problem is that half the information, the half being transmitted through Nunchi channels, is only receivable by someone who is running the Nunchi operating system. Think of it as a radio transmission with two frequencies. The verbal frequency, words, explicit statements, direct communication. Both parties receive this. The Nunchi frequency, tone shifts, micro-expressions, the specific quality of a pause, the arrangement of body language that signals, I am uncomfortable with this direction but will not say so directly. Only the Nunchi-equipped receiver picks this up. The Korean communicator is broadcasting on both frequencies simultaneously, the verbal content and the Nunchi signal. They assume the other party is receiving both, because in a Korean social environment, everyone is receiving both. The Western communicator is broadcasting primarily on the verbal frequency and receiving primarily on the verbal frequency. The Nunchi signal is being transmitted toward them and passing through without registration. The result is two people who have had a conversation and come away with genuinely different understandings of what occurred, not because either party was dishonest, but because they were using incompatible receiving equipment. This is the Nunchi Gap, and it is one of the most consistently reported sources of cross-cultural friction in Korean professional and social environments. Manifestation 1. The Korean who never said no. The most common cross-cultural friction point in Korean professional life is the yes that means no. A Western colleague asks a Korean colleague if a deadline is achievable. The Korean colleague says yes. The deadline is not met. The Western colleague is frustrated. The Korean colleague is confused about why the frustration exists. They signaled, clearly, that the deadline was a problem. They did signal it, just not on the verbal frequency. The specific micro-behaviors that Korean communicators use to signal discomfort, disagreement, or inability without direct statement form a precise vocabulary. The pause that is slightly longer than agreement would require. The yes that comes with a slight intake of breath before it. The eye contact that breaks at the moment of the problematic request. The response that answers a slightly different question than the one asked. The enthusiasm that is present in the voice but absent in the face. Each of these is a Nunchi signal, a transmission on the nonverbal frequency that a Nunchi-trained receiver would read immediately as there is a problem here that I am not going to name directly. The Western colleague hears yes. The Korean colleague said, yes, and also I just signaled you 3 times that this is not achievable, and I assumed you received those signals because in my operating environment, everyone would have. Neither party is wrong. The systems are incompatible. The solution is not for Korean communicators to always be more direct. Directness in Korean social structure carries Kimian costs that the Western colleague is not accounting for. The solution is Nunchi literacy. the ability to recognize that the nonverbal frequency exists and to learn to tune to it. Manifestation 2. The foreigner who was too direct. The gap runs in both directions. When a Western communicator operates in a Korean social environment with Western default directness, asking the blunt question, naming the problem explicitly, declining the invitation clearly, the Korean receiver processes this not as directness, but as social aggression. Not because the content is aggressive, because the delivery violates the Nunchi protocol. In Korean social interaction, the directness of a communication is calibrated to the relationship and the social context. Blunt feedback to a senior colleague is not just impolite, it is a Kimian attack. A direct no to an invitation doesn't just decline the invitation. It closes a Jong channel that the inviter thought was open. The Western communicator who says, "I disagree," in a Korean meeting is not being rude by their own standards. But they have just performed, by Korean social standards, the equivalent of shouting in a library, technically permitted, but generating a social cost that everyone in the room is now absorbing. The Korean colleagues who have just experienced this don't say anything. They absorb it. The Nunchi reading passes through the room. Everyone recalibrates. And the Western colleague wonders why the atmosphere shifted after they said something completely reasonable. They transmitted on the verbal frequency. The room received on the Nunchi frequency. The gap opened. If the Nunchi Gap is explaining cross-cultural experiences you've had in Korean environments, subscribe to K-Logic. The signal was always there. You just needed the right equipment to receive it. The Nunchi Gap reveals something important about the relationship between communication style and social architecture. Western communication norms, directness, explicit statement, the expectation that important information will be verbally transmitted, developed in social systems that were designed around individual accountability. If you need something, you say it. If you disagree, you state it. The individual is responsible for ensuring their own communication is received. Korean communication norms, indirectness, Nunchi signaling, the expectation that the receiver will read nonverbal channels, developed in a social system that distributed the responsibility for communication across both parties. The sender signals, the receiver reads. Both are responsible for the quality of the transmission. Neither system is simply better, but they produce different communication cultures that are genuinely incompatible when they meet without awareness of the incompatibility. The international professional who understands this stops asking, "Why won't Koreans just say what they mean?" A question that assumes the Korean system is a deficient version of the Western one. They start asking instead, "What is being transmitted on the Nunchi frequency that I'm not currently equipped to receive?" That reframe is the beginning of genuine cross-cultural competence. Not adopting the Korean system, not abandoning the Western one. Learning to recognize that both frequencies exist and developing enough Nunchi literacy to at least know when you're missing something important. Flow prompts. A split documentary photograph. On the left, a Western workplace communication. A direct email or explicit verbal statement, the information fully contained in the words. On the right, a Korean workplace communication, the same information being transmitted, but partially through Nunchi channels. The tone, the timing, the specific quality of the pause before the response. Same information, different frequencies. The feeling, the gap is structural, not personal. A photograph of a cross-cultural training or language exchange setting, Korean and international people visible in conversation, the specific quality of people working to bridge a gap they are becoming aware of. The feeling, awareness is the first step. Nunchi literacy can be developed. The gap can be narrowed, but only by people who know the gap exists. The Nunchi Gap is not a problem that gets solved by one party changing their communication style. It gets narrowed by both parties developing awareness of which frequency the other is primarily broadcasting on, and adjusting their receiving equipment accordingly. For the Western professional working in Korean environments, the signal is there. The Korean colleague who paused slightly too long before answering, who said yes with a specific quality of reluctance in their voice, who redirected the conversation at a specific moment, was transmitting. The content was real. The signal was clear on the Nunchi frequency. You don't need to become a native Nunchi processor. You need to develop enough awareness to know when you might be missing something, to ask the follow-up question that creates space for the thing that wasn't said directly, to read the pause as information rather than as silence. For the Korean professional working with Western colleagues, the directness that feels aggressive often isn't. The Western colleague who disagrees openly is not attacking your Kemian. They are operating in a system where open disagreement is the expected channel for substantive feedback, where saying, "I disagree," is not a social event, but an informational one. Understanding this doesn't require abandoning Nunchi. It requires extending the courtesy of assuming the Western colleague's directness is not a social statement about your relationship. It's just their operating system. The gap narrows when both sides know it exists. And knowing it exists starts here, with understanding that the silence in the meeting, the pause before the answer, the yes that felt slightly wrong, was not nothing. It was a transmission. You just needed to tune to the right frequency. If the Nunchi Gap explained a cross-cultural experience you've been trying to decode, hit like and subscribe to K-Logic, because the most important communication happens between the words, and Korea built the most precise system for it. K-Logic will continue decoding the invisible systems that make Korea one of the most logically fascinating societies on the planet. Because the source code was always there. You just needed to tune to the right frequency.